Welcome to Paper Mache People, the podcast for those who dare to venture into the unknown. When I meet fellow paper maches living abroad, I can't remember how many times I've gotten the same answer to why they ended up there. I came here for college or university and somehow never left. For many, this is the first big decision they make in their lives. The proverbial fork in the road. When it was our time, my co-host Mishra and I chose different paths which led to very different experiences and outcomes. Obviously, there is no right and wrong, as neither of us have regrets with regards to our decisions back then. But maybe there were a few things we wish we had known. Get cozy and tune in.
Eileen, how has your week been?
It's been a very hectic week back at work, and it looks like things are just gonna get more and more busy over the next few weeks.
What a rough start to the year.
Yes, it is. It is. How about you? I hope you've been having a better first week.
Yeah, my first week was nice. It's really snowy at the moment, so the whole town looks a little bit more romantic than usual.
Oh, that's the thing about European towns. I think European people have this very strong sense of coziness, don't you think?
I guess so.
I don't think that's present in so much in Asia, where like lighting and atmosphere is not really, it's more like an afterthought. If you go to like a nice cafe or restaurant, then it's like, oh, they really put effort into this.
Yeah, definitely. Although sometimes I feel like they should spend less effort creating a nice atmosphere in a restaurant and focus more on the food.
That is true. There's a trade-off. You want a nice environment or do you want good food? So, following our university theme, I have a few news of the day. So last year, President Donald Trump announced that the fee for the H-1B visa would be hiked up to a hefty $100,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, yeah, this is usually borne by the employer. It basically means for the employer, they have to pay 2 salaries for the person in the first year, right? If they hire a foreign graduate. According to CNN, they've interviewed students and families in India, which is a top source of international students going to the States. And there are signs that people might look to universities elsewhere rather than to brave the risk of not getting a secure employment in the States after graduation. And curiously, it's not only just the concern about the fees. It's also concerns about the vibe of the States not being such a welcoming place anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll be heading to Europe instead, Misha.
I think more and more so, a lot of Asian universities are doing great research, doing great work, and there's no reason why there shouldn't be a shift towards other destinations.
Yeah, and that brings the next question of, are students even looking to go to university to get a degree these days? Is it even worth the cost? Right, now that the AI boom is here and there's a lot of talk about people losing their jobs to AI.
Yeah, for sure.
And indeed, there was a poll done in the US, and it seems like Americans no longer see 4-year college degrees as worth the cost. The poll shows that almost 2/3 of voters say that a 4-year college degree isn't worth the cost. And 2/3 is a lot. So it seems like Gen Zs might be looking at getting more technical training. So rather than, the typical business bachelor's in business administration or finance, they are gonna get training in how to become an electrician, for example. That is also a very high paying job that's very much overlooked.
For sure. Yeah, and I think in the university, we gain a lot of theoretical knowledge that is not necessarily applicable in quote unquote real life. And sometimes I wonder, I mean, of course, it has broadened my perspectives, but I wonder if that's the way to do it. How did you decide what you wanted to study when you were done with the high school exams?
As you can see from my choice of news pieces today, financial return was a very high factor, um, highly ranked factor in my decision making. When I graduated from school, I didn't have any direction at all on what I wanted to do. And I had been a rebel. And so basically, I didn't go into the science stream when I was in high school because I wanted to break the stigma of, only smart people can do science stream and all the stupid people go to arts. And I actually really enjoyed being in art stream. But that did limit my choices when I graduated, where I couldn't take up like engineering or medical degrees. So then I looked up what was like the next most booming, high paying, high employment degree, and that was computer science.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any prior knowledge about programming, but I did a self-guided learning online before I signed up for the degree. And I found that I enjoyed it. I went for it.
Good that you did your research. Yeah. So that's like a really pragmatic way of deciding what you want to do in life. And I remember back then, because you were doing arts, and when you told me that you were doing computer science, I remember being like, wow, that's quite a shift in, in life goals.
Yeah. How about you, Misha?
I was always very interested in learning more about the brain and doing research in neuroscience. So for me, it was very clear what I wanted to study since I was a kid. So there was no question about what I would major in. And it was more like, how did I want to get there? So for me, it's more like managing the balance between the cost and getting high quality education. And I was very lucky that I have an older brother who discovered that education is close to free in continental Europe. So I had the time to learn a new language in order to go to France for my bachelor's degree.
Right, because bachelors are usually in the local language. So you had a head start and you picked up French way before you were going to apply. So prepared.
Like 2 years before. Yeah, but I was lucky. I consider myself very lucky for that.
That's a very unique experience, I feel. Like you knew what you wanted to do and you had a plan and you were working towards it. How did it turn out though? Was the education in France a student life as how you imagined?
Yes, I think I was very satisfied with the education that I got in France. I think it was the time where I was really, you go to university and you have like sparkles in your eyes and you're like, wow, it's so cool.
What is cool? Specifically the campus or the course or what?
No, the campus itself was a little bit disappointing because I think in a lot of universities where Malaysians go to, like in the US or the UK, I have the impression that the buildings are quite beautiful and the like amenities are also quite nice. But given that I went to like a public university in France, the buildings were okay, but they were very functional. It was a functional building. It looked a little bit like a hospital.
That was my experience in Malaysia as well. So just to clarify, you went to the University of South Paris?
Yes. Translated, South Paris University, like Université Paris Sud. Now, since I graduated, they rebranded to Paris-Saclay.
Yeah, and I went to Monash University, Malaysia, in Sunway. And that campus was a very nice campus. It was very new, very functional, like you said.
In hindsight, we did have a beautiful campus, not in terms of the buildings, but in terms of the environment, because we were outside of Paris city center. So there was a lot of land and there were a lot of, I guess, botanists or biologists who were working on the campus. So the rumor is that whenever they went to a conference, they would bring back some local plants from wherever they went and planted it on campus. So the
No,
plants, the vegetation in the campus was really, really beautiful.
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Mm-hmm.
they probably can't bring stuff from outside Europe, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
In comparison, Sunway was not as conducive for outside activity. There was a lot of construction going on at the time. So they were
Ah,
building like a new
mm-hmm.
like overhead bus lanes and parking lot. So it was quite hectic in general. And the
Okay.
only place that
Mm-hmm.
was nice for students to spend time outside the campus was Sunway Pyramid Mall. So you would walk the covered walkway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I went all the time, Sunway Pyramid Mall.
I think it's kind of funny that they built like a covered walkway. I mean, it really shows that their incentive is like, have students, have them
Yes.
spend money at the mall. What surprised me a lot at the university was professors saying that they don't know to a question. And
Mm.
I think prior to that, my experience in Malaysia was that teachers or lecturers would like try their best to answer their question and might even say things that might be not very accurate
Mhm.
just to answer the question because they have to have the answers.
Right.
So the first time a professor was like, "Yeah, I don't know." I was like, "Wait, what?"
When they say they don't know, then are you supposed to figure out somehow, or will they supplement it later?
I think at some point, so at the beginning, it was kind of refreshing, but at some point, I was a little bit frustrated because they always start the phrase by saying, "Oh, I don't want to tell you anything wrong, so I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to say anything."
Mm.
But I'm like, "Yeah, but what's your opinion?" Like, so I think I saw them more as humans and not just godly figures who have all the answers to all the questions, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Were your university professors mostly French?
they were, I think, 100% French. Okay, there was one Malaysian. There was one Malaysian teacher that I had
Oh
actually.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. So while I don't think there is like an explicit rule that they should not hire people who are not French, they built in barriers such as like, being able to speak fluent French, maybe some form of certification that they need,
Right, right.
or like the years of teaching and some other conditions that makes it hard for people who do not come
Mm-hmm.
from France to become a
Right.
professor. Mm-hmm.
I had quite a number of professors who were from the industry.
Nice.
And I think it's because computer science was still a pretty new thing 10 years ago. The School of IT in Monash
Mhm.
was actually quite small.
Yeah.
And they had a number of resident professors who were also doing research. But I really appreciated that they brought in some people from the industry to be part of the education. And that's because,
Definitely.
like, I think computer science in research and computer science in industry is very drastically different.
Yes.
So being able to get a perspective on how it would be applied at work
Yes.
was really valuable.
I think so too. I think because the academia and the industry is so separate in Europe, I think close to none of my professors in biology had industry experience. There's this myth in academia that, science is cool and everybody's nice to each other and it's about, finding the truth and you can be very constructive and it's all objective. And then when you go to the industry, you're like a cog in like a whole system
Yeah.
and you're just told what to do and you have no freedom to think about what you want to do. And I think they really tried to instill this like fear in you that if you leave, you're not going to have any agency anymore. And
Oh, wow.
the more I think about it, the more I think it's like, it's definitely not true. I mean, it of course depends on the kind of roles that you take up.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I agree that
Yeah.
having like professors who have industry experience is definitely an advantage.
I wasn't aware that there was such a big rift between academia and industry because I think Monash
Yeah.
is one of the universities that are really strong in industry collaboration. So I think I would say all my friends were quite informed about what it was like by the time we were going to graduate and had to get a job. I think that was one thing
Mhm.
that really helped form my career.
Something that I realized over time is that while the rankings of the university doesn't reflect the quality of education per se, the difference it makes is that they attract different types of students.
Yes.
And from my experience, when you go to a higher ranking university, because it is competitive to enter the universities, people who are studying there are much more motivated.
Mhm.
And being surrounded by people who are motivated does make a big difference. And you can learn from each other much more easily rather than having a bunch of friends who are like, yeah, I'm here because I'm here and whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to think that ranking is important, but it does influence your environment,
Yeah, it
unfortunately.
does. Yeah. Of course, you can
Mhm.
still excel in like a not so highly
Of
ranked
course.
university, but it makes a difference when you are surrounded by outstanding people and the bar is set
Mhm.
higher and everyone is generally aiming for higher goals. And that makes it feel like, hey, if everyone
Mhm.
can do it, then I can do it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
Mhm.
go to like a top university, that's where you will more likely find that kind of environment. But of course, the converse side, on the flip side, it can be very stressful, right? So if you just want to have a chill university life, then maybe you shouldn't be even going to university at all, because it's expensive and you want to make.
Well said. So for those who are thinking of going abroad for the studies, I highly recommend considering going to continental Europe because even for international students, the cost of studying is relatively low compared to a lot of the English speaking countries. In the US and the UK, it could be approximately 10 to 30K of the local currency. In continental Europe, it could be as low as 300.
Wow.
It could be free in certain countries like Norway and as low as like 150 to 300 euros per year in Germany and France. And of course, in some other countries, it's more expensive, like in the Netherlands and Switzerland. It's between 6 to 12,000 euros, but it's still relatively cheap compared to the usual destinations where Malaysians go to.
Right. I didn't know that university education was free in Norway, even for international students. I assume the living expenses will be higher than what you experience in France because the cost of living in Norway is just, one of the most expensive places in the world, if not the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, you have
Yeah.
to take that in consideration as well. But I find that in Europe, people usually in Asia, the idea is that if your parents are able to, then they will support you through your university studies, or you study hard and be smart enough to secure a scholarship or some sort of financial aid. In Europe, people tend to work their way through.
Yes, it's funny because I had some conversations with my supervisors who had grown up kids, and it was quite amusing for me because their perspective is like, if the kid's 18, it's an adult, so get out my house and get out my life. And the children, on
Yeah.
the other hand, also have the same perspective. I was like, okay, I'm 18, so I'm moving out. And I found that kind of scary, to be honest. If I were to be kicked out at 18, it would have been tough.
Yeah. In hindsight, I feel like I would have preferred that because that's when you have this hard cut off where both parties agree that, okay, now you're your own person, you're responsible for yourself. And it would be nice if you can still depend on your parents when you ask for it, right? But it's not assumed that they will be there to do everything for you.
And I guess the perspective when you study as well is quite different. When you have had some work experience, you understand what work is like and therefore also appreciate the education a bit more.
Yeah. Misha, you went to 3 different universities. So did you go through 3 graduation ceremonies?
I've only been to one.
What?
For my bachelor's, there was no ceremony, and I just collected my certificate from the office and that was it. And then you're done.
Did you just not attend the ceremony, or was that how it
No, there was
was?
no ceremony. And I think I was a bit surprised back then. And I asked some people around me, and they were like, "Yeah, I mean, that's what do you want, you know?"
Very French.
Yeah, they're like, "Yeah, you know, we are not like the Americans. What are you expecting?"
Oh.
For my masters, they did have a ceremony, but I was unwell, so I missed the group photo shoot.
Oh no.
And then the ceremony was in German, so I didn't understand anything, and people were laughing. I was like, "Yeah, okay, don't know." Then you had to wait for a really long time for your name to be called to get on stage, and then they took a photo, and that was kind of it. So that was also meh. And my PhD certificate was mailed to my home.
Oh my god. After all that hard work, and it's just like a piece of paper in your post.
Exactly. I mean, to some extent, it does put things into perspective. It's like, yeah, okay, so what?
Did you at least like frame it up and put it on somewhere in your house?
Oh, no, no. I mean, the PhD certificate is particularly underwhelming, I would say.
Why?
So it's like in the same envelope when they mailed it to me, there was like a note saying, "Hey, if you want like a beautiful certificate with calligraphy, it'll cost you 250 francs." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
What?
I'm like making a business out of this. Yeah. You know, they made the certificate so ugly that I did consider paying for a brief moment. And then I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Come on.
I guess maybe they're doing it out of cost concerns. Was it with your master's and PhD, were they public universities?
They were all public universities. Yeah. And I mean, these ceremonies do cost a lot.
In Malaysia, it's not like the graduation ceremony is cheap either. It costs a lot to get the square hat and the robe, and the photos are also
Mm-hmm.
tiered. I think they're like different packages, so
Oh,
they've
wow.
definitely made a business out of it in Malaysia.
Wow.
Yeah, that's because Malaysians like to show show off.
And so what? The photographer will not be taking photos of you if you didn't buy the package.
I think it's just a number of
I
shots.
see.
And it's kind of stupid because it's like you go up on stage and you collect the certificate from this, usually the dean. But you've never seen this uncle your whole 3 years or 4 years in university. And then it's like, I want to pay so much to get a photo of this guy. I was like, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really miss university life. Do you?
I think at this point in time, I'm ready to move on to the next phase of my life.
And that is after how many years?
You know what's funny? When I was in the first year of my bachelor's, I found out that in France, they count like the level of education you have based on how many years you studied after high school. So there's like, 1 year after high school, 2 years after high school, and so on. And so masters would be like 5 years after high school. And back then I thought, wow, that's like such a long time. Little did I know I spent 11 years.
Wow, that's like going through your elementary and
Oh my
middle
God.
school and high school education again. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Terrible. For today's trivia, we'll be talking about the history of education. And first question is, where is the world's oldest university located? Is it A, India, B, the UK, or C, Morocco?
Wait, I don't know why I was expecting the Netherlands to be in one of the choices, but it didn't show up. Okay, it was India, Morocco, or
The UK.
I will just go with the UK.
The answer is Morocco.
Wow.
The oldest university was founded in the year 859, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin. Funnily enough, it was founded by a woman, Fatima al-Fihri. And it's still running today. So it is the oldest university and it's the oldest university that's still functioning today.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Hmm.
But what does it mean to be a university back then?
Actually, I think the Middle Eastern world was very progressive at the time. They were teaching math and medicine, astronomy, law, and philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
while a lot of other forms of education in other parts of the world was focusing more on religion. Or in China back then, it was like memorizing Confucius texts.
Right.
And the University of Oxford and like University of Bologna only came about 300 years after this university in Morocco.
Cool.
Question number 2. Which country spends the highest percentage of its GDP on education? Is it A, Botswana, B, China, or C, Lesotho?
Wow. I feel like that can't be true for China. So I would say either Botswana or Lesotho.
Mhm.
I'll go with Botswana.
It's Lesotho.
Oh, no.
Lesotho spends about 13% of its GDP, followed closely by Cuba, who spends 12.8% of its GDP. And most countries in the world spends about 4 to 6% of its GDP on education. So actually the top 4 countries spend close to double of what most countries spend.
Wow.
Question number 3. When did mass education begin? Is it in the 1700s, the 1800s, or the 1900s?
When you say mass educations, you mean like even commoners can go to university, right?
Yes. Yes.
I would say it's quite late, like 1900s.
It's the 1800s. It's because of the Industrial Revolution that countries needed factory workers. So they needed people who can read instructions, be disciplined, show up on time, and share the same ideology.
Right.
And prior to that, it was much more scattered. So you could either have apprenticeships or your family would teach you, or you could have religious teaching. I think some structured education was provided only for elites of the country.
Right.
But it really goes to show that they're educating you so that you can provide value to the whole system.
You can be a good worker.
Exactly. So it's not like about creating a better world or something.
Lies.
Lies.
And that's it for today. If you know someone who might find this episode useful, don't forget to share it with them. For more Paper Mache content, follow us on Instagram and TikTok. See you next time!